Hello, my name is Bonnie, and this is my channel, A Knitter Obsessed. This is my knitting podcast where I talk about all things knitting currently going on in my life. And, first things first, long time no see. It's been quite a while since I sat down to film for you guys. Part of that is I went on vacation for a couple of weeks and was over in Mexico for a family reunion with some of my husband's family, which was wonderful and lovely. And it was so great to get to meet a lot of his family that I've never met before and, had a great time. But another part of it is just that I went back to school, so I've been quite busy, and then I've just not been doing great with my mental health and my anxiety the last month or so. And, sometimes life does that to us, and you just kind of got to get through it. But I wasn't in a place where I could sit down and really talk about my knitting and be upbeat and be excited, and I just was feeling very overwhelmed and stressed out, and just yeah, it needed to take a little bit of a break, and I'm doing better now. I still have a lot of anxiety and a lot of issues with it, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, but I am coping better and doing better and able to show up more for the things in my life that I need to be showing up for. So luckily that is good. With that, I did want to, before we get into the knitting, I wanted to talk about just a few things. Usually I would put this kind of stuff at the end of the episode, but it's on my mind and I want to get it out of the way. And I want to make sure, as many people see this as is possible, because I know not everyone watches to the end of my videos. But a huge part of my issues with my anxiety and stuff right now is the current state of affairs in the US. And so if you're not from the US, you've probably still seen quite a bit about it in the news, because I know we are making national headlines, or not national, but global headlines right now. And I know a lot of people don't want to come to this channel and have it be about politics. And I honestly get that, because for me right now, politics is taking up so much of my brain, and I like having options of places to go where I can escape from that. And I want to keep this a space where it is mostly about that. It's about building a community and being here for each other and taking a minute to indulge in a hobby that makes us happy and makes us feel relaxed and calm and get away from the stresses of politics and current events. Trust me, I get that. So I'll keep this brief, and I won't make this like an every episode thing. I just want to touch on it because I haven't come onto the channel since, the US inauguration, and I just wanted to make sure I brought up a couple of things. And first and foremost, I want you guys to know that this channel is a safe place for everyone. I stand by the LGBTQIA community. I stand by trans people in particular, because they are going through a very hard time right now. I stand by our immigrants. I stand by our national parks, which feels like a wild thing to have to say that one. It's a scary time and it's uncertain, and I want to do what I can to fight against a lot of these injustices. And so I'm very nervous right now. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but it's nerve-wracking to put yourself out like this and to speak up. And I have my platform so small. Like, I know I'm not reaching, hundreds of thousands of people or any of that, but I'm reaching a few, and I have a bit of a platform. And I feel like it is my duty to say that I am not okay with what is happening right now, and that I am not okay with the damage being done to already very marginalized and scared communities. And I stand by them. You are welcome here as long as you're here to talk about knitting and to, be in a community where we uplift each other and respect each other and, help each other where it needs to be, where we need it. So I guess I don't want to go on too long. I am going to be linking a few videos and creators in the comments of people that I have found that are much more articulate and much more well-researched, and they're great videos to watch if you want more information on this. Some people, most of them from the fiber arts community, but not all, who are speaking up on these topics, and I think doing really good work and getting really good information out there. And then most importantly, I wanted to just let you guys know that going forward, I will be donating 100% of the profits from this channel towards organizations that are working to fight for trans rights. It's an issue that is incredibly important to me. That community is going through so much right now and are very much under attack, and they need our support. And so again, this is a small channel. I'm not able to do much with that, but I wanted to make this channel working towards something that I could feel good about and feel proud about and feel like I'm trying to make a difference even just a little bit. And I just wanted to let you guys know that so that you know exactly what you are supporting as well. So, you know, that we know we're all doing this together. This is a community effort and it's our duty to do what we can. So anyways, like I said, a little anxious and worked up about that because I don't often, you know, it's a knitting podcast. I talk about knitting and yarn and not even particularly articulately about that. So I hope this is coming across the way I intend for it to. And like I said, I promise I won't do this every single episode because it's exhausting and I know I need a break too. Like, but on the same end, everything we do is political. Just existing is political. Knitting is political. It is fiber arts is, and crafting in general is an act of resistance and community building. And it just is political. Like, so if you're going to come in here and say politics don't have a place on the channel, I think they have a place because they're there no matter what we do. That doesn't mean I'm going to lean into it all the time. So that is my spiel. With that, I think we can get into the knitting and lighten it up a little bit. Because like I said, we all need that break. So, like I said, because it's been a long time since I filmed, I have quite a lot to talk about. So I have 3-ish finished objects. One's not like blocked or anything, but it is off the needles. And 3 whips, so, and a little bit of a yarn acquisition. So we're gonna get into it and I'll try and go fairly rapidly so that this video isn't like 2 hours long, since it has been like almost 2 months since I've gone through projects. So I don't want to just be like rambling. So first things first, my first finished object is what I am wearing, and that is my Cognac Sweater by Atelier Caston. I knit this holding 1 strand of Witchfire Fibers Cashmere Blend sock base in the colorway Ebb, along with Treehouse Knits Truffula Cashmere, Truffula Cashmere in the colorway I'm Not Broken, Just a Little Chipped. So together they are obviously very different, and so I was going for a bit of a marl, and I achieved a bit of a marl, and I am really, really happy with the way this looks. I'll be putting in some B-roll so you can see what it looks like on me, so I'm not just like getting up and down and all that. I find that's a little easier to watch, but this is a really cool pattern. It's you use a strand of fingering and a strand of lace, and you knit it at a really open gauge on US 10 or 6mm needles, and so you get this really big open gauge, and it's just nice and light and just super, super cozy and fuzzy, and I love it. This is very similar to the Lento, which a lot of people love. I've heard a ton about that pattern, but where the Lento is, I believe, a raglan, this one has sort of a contiguous set in sleeve construction, and I was really drawn to that just because I liked the way the fit looked on all the pattern photos, but also it just looked like it'd be fun to knit. So, and it absolutely was. So just to give you a really quick recap on how this is knit, you knit the back panel first, like a little tiny bit of the back panel, a little trapezoid. And then you put a bunch of the stitches on hold and you knit 2 rectangles coming forward. And then you knit around the bottom of this rectangle. I don't know if you can see me. Yeah, around the bottom of this rectangle, you pick up stitches along the edge of it, knit across the back, pick up stitches on the other shoulder, knit the front of this, and that's how you join, and then you do your increases and stuff from there. And so, again, just really fun to knit. I enjoyed different constructions and, you know, seeing how they, like, watching them grow in new, like, watching garments grow in new ways is just, like, very fascinating to me. So I had a ton of fun with it. And then because it's at the super open gauge, it knit so fast. I started this on, looking at my computer, January 5th, and I finished it January 15th. So less than 2 weeks to knit the sweater, which is pretty awesome. I went for, there's 2 options. There's I-cord finishings, and then there's the ribbing finishings, and I went with the ribbing finishings. I thought they just looked nice and cozy. And I did lengthen the body quite a bit on this. So on the pattern, what it calls for is really quite cropped. And I knit it just a bit longer because I mostly wear high-waisted jeans, but I don't like exclusively wear high-waisted jeans. I do wear some mid-rise more or less, and I wanted to make sure I could wear this with everything. But I also wanted to make sure it was cropped enough to look cute with like dresses and skirts. And I gotta say, I finished this right before we went to Mexico, and I wore the heck out of it there. It was the perfect layering place for that climate because it would cool off at night, and this was just exactly what I needed because of the open gauge, it's not overly warm, but because it's, wool and, fluffy yarns and all of that, it does trap enough heat that it is perfect on just like evenings when you're just a little bit chilly. Like, oh, it's great. I wore this on the plane, both there and back. I wore this almost every single evening. I wore this like a sweatshirt over leggings. I wore this tucked into a skirt, so it was like a nice going out top. I wore this over dresses. Like, I wore the absolute heck out of this for those 2 weeks. And I've been wearing the heck out of it since I got back too. Like, it's just so comfortable. I wore it 3 days in a row last week. And was finally stopped doing that because I was worried someone was going to call me out on the fact I didn't look like I had changed my shirt for, days. But I love it. The only thing about it, and the thing is, this is not a surprise. I saw this coming. I was prepared for, like, mentally prepared for this, but this does pill like crazy. And again, I'm not surprised. Both of these yarns are very, very soft. Both have cashmere in them. The sock yarn only, I think it has like 10% cashmere, but it's very, very soft yarn. And then this is mostly merino wool and then a little bit of cashmere to make the fluffy bit. I don't remember quite what the percentages are, but it's like 15% cashmere or something. I'm not totally sure, but it's very, very soft. And I'm then knitting it at a very open gauge. So there's not a lot of tension holding the stitches in place or anything like that. And so it gets very, very fuzzy. And so after we got back from Mexico, like, it very much needed a shave. I shaved it. I got like a good like baseball size amount of fluff off of it. It was rather crazy. And since then it's been pilling again, but not nearly at the rate of the first pill. So I think it's going to slow down. But I do expect this will be a sweater that I just need to shave more often than my other sweaters. And I don't know, it kind of is what it is. I'm not worried about it. Like, I think it's worth it because, like I said, this is the softest thing ever. It feels like I'm wearing a cloud. Like, there's zero itch factor. I don't even think about it while I'm wearing it. It's just so nice. And then because it's so comfy in my head, I feel like it like doesn't look nice when I'm not looking in the mirror. Like, when I'm walking around my house, I feel like I'm wearing like a pajama top or something. So in my head, I feel like I look like I'm wearing a pajama top. And then I'll go look in the mirror and I'm like, no, it looks super cute. Like, it's so comfy. I forget how cute it is, if that makes sense. Like, I absolutely love this. I would totally make this again. I think I'd love to make it with a mohair because it would be a little bit more prickly, but I do think it would be a little bit sturdier and more long wearing with a mohair instead of the truffula. But that being said, I think the truffle is amazing and I highly recommend getting some if you feel like splurging on some Treehouse Knits yarn. Her yarn is amazing. I did not alternate skeins or anything on this. I just went for it and I think it looks great. Both Witchfire Fibers and Treehouse Knits are very good at how evenly dyed their yarns are. I've never had any trouble. I mean, this is my first time using Witchfire Fibers, but I've used Treehouse Knits a few times and her yarns are very, very even and nice to use. And then I can say now I'm a fan of Witchfire Fibers yarn as well. I think it's lovely. But yeah, what else can I say about this? I knit the size 3. I think I could have gone with the size 2 and I probably would have still been quite happy because it is quite deep in the yoke and there is a little bit more positive ease than I maybe intended to have. But that being said, I like the fit. I just think I would have been also very happy going with a size 2. Like, I think 2 or 3 were pretty interchangeable. And then I did add 2 decrease rows in the body. So after about right at like max bust, I started to add a decrease row after that. And then I did another one about halfway through the body just to bring it in just a teensy tiny bit. And so it has a very, very slight taper and I think it fits exceptionally. I really, really like it. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I used all the needle sizes called for in the pattern, followed the pattern to a T other than those decrease rounds. So I think this one is a winner. I'm actually just going to jump ahead to the acquisitions as well. I'm going to jump around on acquisitions because both of them are kind of related to projects, so we'll just integrate them in. But I had a gift card for Treehouse Knits that I got because I did some sample knitting for her. And so right as I finished this, I loved it so much, I went to see what she had in stock, and I ended up picking up a little bit of her spruce sock and another of her truffle cashmeres. And these are both in the color There's a Little Witch in All of Us from her Love Letters from the Pacific Northwest collection. And my plan is to do the Cognac cardigan in these. So that is also patterned by Atelier Caston. It's this exact same sweater, but as a cardigan. And I think it will be absolutely beautiful in this green color, which if you've been on the channel for a little bit, I think you can probably guess this is a very me color. I really like my greens and blues, and I really like specifically like teals and like kind of aqua greens like this. Like, I think it's going to be absolutely stunning. And I'm actually really intrigued because this one, specifically in the truffle, you can see a little bit of tonality in it. Like there's some like more yellowy strips and more like kind of darker green strips, and I think it's going to look really, really pretty. So that is one of two acquisitions that I'm also showing off and the plan for it. And I had to like stop myself from casting on the Cognac cardigan right away because I have some other stuff I want to get done. But I saw this color and like immediately wanted to like cake it up and cast it on. I had to be like, hold on. Like you can't just like, I mean, you can, it's my hobby. I can do whatever I want, but I didn't want to just abandon all my other project ideas just out of the gate like that. So, all right, my next one, this one's not particularly exciting, but I've been promising my husband a pair of socks since about Christmas. And so I ended up casting those on as soon as we got back from Mexico because the needle tips from my other project that I'm going to show you in just a minute got confiscated by TSA at the Cancun airport. So I couldn't keep working on that one and I needed to cast something on. So tip, I have never had an issue traveling with knitting before. No one's ever brought it up until the Cancun airport. And then they said that the 4-inch Gu interchangeable tips that I had were too long. And so I took them off. I always take interchangeable tips on planes, so that way if my needles do get confiscated, I don't have to take the entire project off the needles. I can just take the tips off, put a, I did a stitch marker through the like tightening hole on the chains to keep all the stitches on, put it in my bag and called it good. So my project got to stay on the needles. I just had to give away my needles to TSA, which was very sad. But when I got home and I needed to pick up a new project, I ended up casting on a pair of just rib socks. These aren't anything particularly exciting. So these are sort of following, they are following the pattern for Summer Lee's color blocked rib socks in her book, The Sock Project. I say loosely because I like only used that to like verify that I was doing the heel flap and gusset correctly because these are my third pair of socks, and so it's still not like quite muscle memory. My husband has already worn these quite a bit. I gave them to him right after they came off the needles before I blocked them or anything. And he got very excited to put them on and like didn't take them off for like the next 24 hours. Like he loves these. He's so happy with them. I knit the large, the 72 stitch count. I did heel flap and gusset. I'm not sure, just purely aesthetically, I'm not sure how much I love the 2x2 rib into the like slip stitch heel. But like on the same level, I'm not sure how much I care about aesthetics for just like a pair of basic socks either. So I think they're gonna hold up well. I definitely want to do a reinforced heel for my husband because I want these to be able to last for as long as humanly possible. So, and yeah, then after I took them back from him so that I could give them a proper block, and I put them on my sock blockers so I could show them to you guys and, show them off. These are knit in Knit Picks Stroll in the colorway Flagstone Heather in their tweed base. It's like I think it's a 75-25 superwash and nylon. I like this yarn. I got it for sale on their like 246 sale that they do, so it was very affordable. I knit them quite long, so the legs are a full 7 inches, and then the feet were as long as they need to be to fit his feet. And so I used almost a whole ball per sock, not quite, but like close. And so yeah, these are definitely use a lot more yarn than like socks that I make for myself, but I think I'm really happy with them. But yeah, that's it. I don't have much more to say about these. So they were a good palette cleanser, and it kind of felt really good while I was dealing with the bad anxiety to knit something for someone else. Like, it was a nice focus to think, you know, like I'm channeling this anxiety and like this fidgetiness into something that's actively going to make someone's life a little better. And, you know, it's a little bit grounding, and I kind of needed that. So these socks were a very good project for, you know, what I needed at the time. All right, next up, my last finished object, and this is the one that's like kind of finished because I still need to weave in all the ends. I still need to block it. It definitely needs a block because it's cables and lace, and so it needs to be opened up. But I cast this on so that I would have something to work on in Mexico. So I very specifically wanted like a vacation project, and I wasn't sure what the temperature is going to be like in Mexico. I figured it'd be warmer, obviously, but just wasn't sure. So I wanted to work not with wool or anything fuzzy necessarily. And I've had 4 skeins of We Are Knitters the cotton in my stash for like 5 years. I actually bought it to make my first ever garment like 5 years ago. I don't remember what the garment was. I didn't like the process of knitting it. It was knit in pieces and seamed, and it just, I think it was all seed stitch or like moss stitch. And it was really heavy because it was all in cotton, and like it had, I don't know, I just didn't like it, and I knew it was going to be something I would never wear, and I just stopped knitting it and like fizzled out on it. And I've been trying to figure out what to do with this yarn ever since. And so I cast on, it's the Kylie Pullover by Irene Lynn. Try and pull it back a little. Which is this beautiful all over cables and lace pattern. This is another one that has 2 edging options. So you can either do ribbing, or she has like a little garter edge. And I went with the ribbing just because I feel like it adds a little bit of like contrast and like visual depth at the edges that the garter didn't. Like the ribbing's a little bit thicker than the garter edging, and so I just feel like it like frames the piece quite nicely. She also has options for long sleeves. I went with the short sleeves. Part of that was that I definitely didn't have enough yarn for the long sleeves, but also I liked the short sleeves better. I think they are very cute. And these go right about to my elbow. So I'm not going to try this on because it looks really odd blocked. Looks really odd unblocked. It's definitely very clingy where it shouldn't be clingy, and I think it's going to look like a completely different garment blocked. And so this will probably be making a comeback in the next podcast episode, and I will show you like the truly finished version where it's all blocked and lovely, and you know, I can wear it over a tank top and show it off for you guys. But for right now, this is what we got. I lengthened the body on this quite a bit. I think I did an extra probably 3 or 4 inches, and I would have lengthened it more. I would have done another inch or 2 if I had yarn. I used every scrap of inch, like every single inch of yarn that I had. I had like maybe this much left over at the end. Because yeah, I just was trying to get this as long as I possibly could. And also I just really wanted this cotton out of my stash at this point. Like I really did not want any left over. But yeah, I used every single bit that I could, and I would still have made it a little bit longer. It is, if I had stopped it where the pattern said, it would have been above my belly button. Like, just keep an eye out. This pattern is much more cropped than it looks like in the pattern photos. So I knit the size 1 because Irene Lynn's patterns run very oversized, and so the size 1 should still give me like 8 inches of positive ease, which I think is plenty. And like I said, it's a little clingy on me right now, but I know that once it opens up with blocking, I think the fit's going to be perfect. But yeah, I had a ton of fun knitting this. This is done on a US 6 needle for most of it, and then a US 4 for the edges. Sewn bind off on all the edges, and it was a lot of fun. It was really easy to memorize the pattern. I had it memorized before the first repeat of it. It's an 8-row repeat, and I think I got like 3 rows in and went, oh, I got this, and barely had to look at the pattern again after that, except when it came to doing like the shaping and stuff. And yeah, my only thing about the pattern that was a little interesting, and I was a little surprised by my own opinion on it, was that it does have charts, a couple of charts, but a lot of it is also like fully written out, and it's almost overwhelming how many words are in this pattern. So if you like charts, the charts are there. If you like, you know, written out instructions, those are there too. So it's, you can kind of use it as you need to, but it was, when I opened the pattern, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a long pattern. It was a little surprising. And then I ended up using the charts a lot more, which usually I am a written pattern kind of person, but for this one, because the stitch pattern is very memorizable, the charts were just perfect for if you just need a little refresher on what like row you're on or something. So very well written. I think it's a very approachable pattern that like, it's more beginner friendly than it looks. And then there's a really high impact for like how stunning the fabric comes out with, you know, not a ton of work, and it knit up really fast. Like the DK weight cotton on the 4mm needles, it kind of just grew very, very quickly as I was working on it. So it's very satisfying knit. I do recommend that one. For stats on that one, sorry, my computer's over here, which is why you'll see me kind of leaning and doing it that way. But let's see, I cast this on January 16th and I cast it off on February 19th. So a little over a month, and I did lose a week to needing to wait for my new needles to come in. So it, like I said, very quick knit, and I'm very happy with it. And I think I will get a lot of use out of it in the summer because I tend to really like the feeling of like being more covered up. Like I like having overshirts on, I like having sleeves. But obviously in the summer when it's hot, it's harder to do that. And so I think something like this where it's very open and breezy, I will be able to, you know, feel covered up but not feel like I'm suffocating. So, and also this cotton from We Are Knitters is very, very soft. So it was nice to work with, has excellent stitch definition, and I don't think I'll get more of it because I don't necessarily think I'm going to be shopping from We Are Knitters. Just, I think they're a little overpriced for what they are, and you know, not here to throw shade, but so I'm not necessarily sure I'll like work with it again unless I found it like secondhand, but and like discounted. But I did really enjoy working with it this time, and I'm glad I finally, you know, put the yarn to something like towards something that I enjoyed, because I've just been like moving it from room to room for years. All right, so that's it for finished objects. I have 3 whips, 2 of which I started last night, so I had a lot of cast on happening last night. All right, so the first one you've seen before if you've been on the channel for any amount of time, but it's my Kip sweater, but I got a sleeve done. Kinda, I'm gonna redo the cuff. So technically it's off the needles. Yeah, so technically this sleeve is off the needles, but I am going to be ripping this cuff off and completely redoing it. But this is the Kip sweater by Rebecca Clow, the Crayabea. This is knit in Knit Picks High Desert Sport in the colorway Mountain Bluebird. And I am going to run out of yarn, and I do need to buy more. And then, yeah, I am really liking this. I'm finally at a point where I can try it on. Like I put the bottom, I haven't done the bottom hem yet. It's ready for the hem. But I put it on scrap yarn so that I could try this on as I go. And every time I try it on, I'm just like, this is a really nice sweater. Like it is really cute. And I'll be honest, I have not enjoyed the process of making this sweater very much. It's a little tedious, so it's all over texture. This is all done with slip stitches, and it makes quite a dense fabric. It's sport weight yarn. It's knit on a US 9 needle. I went up a needle size. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be on 5mm, so US 8, and I went up to 5.5 in order to get the gauge. But so the big needle keeps it from being like really dense, but it just grows very, very slowly. Like this sleeve took me weeks. It would take me, I took it to knit night one night and worked on it exclusively for 2 hours without like taking a break at all, pretty much. And I got through like this much of it, like maybe. And usually I can knit a sleeve in like a day or two, and this sleeve took me forever. It just was not growing. So and the sleeve took well over a full ball of yarn. It took like maybe 1 1/4 balls of yarn or something, which is why I know I'm going to run out of yarn, because I only have 1 ball of yarn left and I have a whole sleeve to do and the bottom hem. So I need to order another ball. But I am really happy with it though. Like the more I see it getting done, the more I want to own this sweater, because I think it's going to be really comfy, and it's got like a really cute like sweatshirty fit, and I'm actually very, very excited about it. So The reason we're redoing the sleeve is because the cuff is absolutely massive. Like if I hold my wrist up, it's so big. And so I actually did one increase more than the pattern called for. She did not have very many increases in her sleeves at all. And I wasn't particularly looking forward to figuring out how to do this pattern in Magic Loop and having to deal with it because the slip stitches like move every round, and I think it just would have been irritating, and I just didn't want the like stress of it. But what I am going to do is rip back to right before this lateral braid and do a rapid decrease round. And so that way we get kind of like just like some little balloon sleeves. And I think it'll be really cute because the sweater as a whole isn't particularly oversized. And so I think having the little balloon at the cuff will actually be a very cute kind of sweatshirty fit. And I'm very happy about that. I did also attempt to do a folded cuff here because I thought maybe it would look cute. But I think it doesn't really fit the vibe. And so I will probably just do a standard cuff when I redo the sleeve, which also saved me a little bit of yarn. So I'm still going to run out of yarn even if I like save yarn on the cuff. Like that's not going to make it that I don't need to buy another ball, but it will make it take a little less time when I reknit it. So, but yeah, I'm still really happy with it. It's been put on the back burner because I hate frogging my work, so I haven't wanted to do it. And that meant that I haven't been working on this, and I've been casting on other things last night. So, but I'm really happy with this. I can like see the light at the end of the tunnel with this sweater now, but I think it'll probably still be a while before it's all the way done. My friend that I was buddy knitting this with, Katie, hey Katie, just finished hers and sent me a picture, and it looks absolutely gorgeous, which did help me feel a little bit more motivated to keep working on it. So I don't know. I'm planning to go visit her sometime this year, hopefully. I haven't actually talked to her about that yet, but it's in the plans, in my plans. And I'd love to, be able to bring my sweater so we can match next time I see her. So there is some motivation to keep working on this besides me just wanting to own the sweater. So, but yeah, that's my Kip sweater. Slowly but surely. Next up, I cast on another pair of socks. I was listening to an online lecture last night, and it was a fairly long one, and I needed something to keep my hands busy because I can't listen if my hands aren't moving, which is an interesting issue. And the other project I had just cast on was in like its short rows section and stuff, which would have taken just a little bit more brain focus than I had to give while listening to a lecture. So I cast on a pair of socks. So these are just vanilla socks. I'm not doing anything crazy with them. I did a little pop of color at the top using, this is Silver Pennies yarn, their Yak U base, which is left over from my Oslo sweater by Petite Knit. If you've been on the channel, that's what this is from. And then the main body of it is from, it's 29 Bridges Go-To sock yarn. And I got this at Flock Fiber Festival. I've been wanting to start these socks for a while, but this is in the colorway Patina. And this is a 75-25 superwash merino and nylon blend. And I love this yarn so much. It's got these light blues mixed with these like yellows and coppers and like rusty brown colors. It's so pretty. And it looked pretty in a skein, and then I kicked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, the cake's a work of art. But I'm really liking how it's knitting up on the sock. Like there's very little color pooling. It's just a nice blend of all of the colors together. And I think it's really, really pretty with the teal at the top. I haven't decided if the teal is going to go anywhere else. It might just be a pop of color at the top, but it also might be toes and heels. I'm not totally sure. This is also my first time ever using tiny circulars. So these are Chowgu 9-inch circulars in US 1. I thought I'd give them a try. Jury's out on whether I prefer these to my Magic Loop or not. But I could see these being good for, like, if I really want to travel with my socks, like, or take them to, like, the movie theaters or take them to, like, doctor's office or something where I'm going to be in public. These are a lot less cumbersome than my Magic Loop technique. Like, I'm not, like, pulling my cord. Not that I'm pulling my cord out like this, but, like, it's less fiddly. It's more contained. I am able to just knit in a circle and not have to, like, stop what I'm doing and stuff. But they are definitely less comfortable. And I do feel like my tension is, like, slightly looser. Like, I'm pulling my yarn open just a little bit more than I do on my Magic Loop. So I'm not sure that these are replacing Magic Loop. I just might, I don't know, keep them for different projects. But I haven't decided yet. Like I said, jury's still out. We're very new into this. We'll see what's going on. And then my plan is I actually want to do either an afterthought heel or a forethought heel on these so that I can just, knit a tube on my little circulars and then put the heels in later. And also just to try a new heel construction because I've only ever done heel flap and gusset, and it's time to branch out. I was thinking of casting on a different pair of socks with some other yarn that I have and doing like a more elaborate pair with like some lacer cables. But I feel like because I'm still very new to sock knitting, I'm actually following Summerlee's advice. She had a video on like 5 tips for new sock knitters or something, or like 5 tips to improve your sock knitting. And her first tip was just to knit a lot of basic socks and to knit them with different heel constructions, to knit them with different cable options, to, start experimenting so that you are able to figure out what you actually really enjoy and what fits your foot best and what works best for you. And I feel like I still have, like, not that I won't branch out to more complicated ones, but 1, I needed these to be simple so I could listen to my lecture, but 2, I think I'm still figuring out a lot of my preferences, and so these are a bit of an experiment for me. But really happy. I think these are going to be fun. I knit on them way too long last night. I was up way too late just because I was like very excited to see how the colors turned up. And then, last but not least, hopefully I'm not talking too fast. I feel like I'm like really, really talking fast today, so I apologize if that's the case. Like I said, been dealing with some anxiety. It's definitely, my brain's just moving very fast the last few weeks. But we'll do the acquisition part of this first. So I was my local yarn store at the very beginning of January, before I made my declaration in my plans video that I wasn't going to buy yarn this year. I bought this before I told you guys that. But my local yarn store was having a sale, and this yarn was very heavily marked off. But this is the Mode at Rowan Merino Soft. So this just says it's 100% wool. So I don't think it's superwash, which is kind of, yeah, that's cool. I prefer non-superwash. I'm happy about that. This is in the colorway Denim and Sage. And so like I said, these are very heavily marked off, and I just absolutely love these colors together. If you were to ever see my house, like you would know that I love blue and green together because this is basically the color scheme of a good chunk of my house. I have favorite colors for sure, and it comes out in my knitting. But this yarn is, I picked it up hoping it was like a worsted weight, and it's definitely marketed as more of like a heavy worsted or Aran weight, so it's a little thicker than I wanted it to be. But after doing some gauge swatching, these are messy, but I was able to get pretty much bang on gauge for, this is going to be hard to show because it's at a very flippy point in the project, but I'm making the Bergman Sweater by Caitlin Hunter. So I'm trying to get it so you can see some of the color work. I just started the color work part of it. So I'm using the Sage as the main color and the Denim as the contrast color. This sweater, it starts off, with mostly the contrast color, but the body of it will be in the Sage color. And yeah, I absolutely love these together. I think they're so pretty. I love the color work in this pattern. I think it's just very modern looking and looks really fun and has really high impact. And I really like the stitch definition. Here, I'll try and show it. I'll show it with the swatch, but I do really like the stitch definition that I get with this yarn. Like, it just looks very nice. One thing that's interesting about this yarn, the texture of it, it's hard to explain. To me, it almost kind of feels like a towel. Like, it's got like the kind of softness that it has. It feels like, not like wool to me. I don't know, it's hard to explain. And then when it knits up, so like as it is in the sweater right now, it's quite stiff, and like it almost feels like I'm knitting it at too tight of a gauge. But then once I block it, it's still a little stiff, because like I said, I am knitting slightly denser than I should be. So the sweater will be a little denser than the pattern probably called for, but it's got good drape. Like it dries, washes and dries into something that makes a really nice fabric. So I am quite excited to see how this turns out. I'm liking it so far. I just did I did the collar last night, and then I did all the short rows and this little bit of color work today, and I'm having a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. So this is, like I said, the Bergman by Caitlin Hunter. I'm knitting size 2, which should give me about 4 inches of positive ease, maybe a little more because of my yarn changes. You know, it might get a little bigger. But yeah, this is my first ever stranded color work sweater. I've done stranded color work one other time before and it was an absolute fail. So we're hoping this will go better. But I'm just mentally prepared to have to rip out a lot. Like, it's okay if I need to start over. It's okay if something doesn't work, or I'm treating this as just a fun, like, experiment and play around and have a good time and try something new. And yeah, if I need to do it a bunch of times, if I find out this yarn really doesn't work and I gotta try it again with new yarn, like, I'm okay with that. It is what it is. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, you know, I don't know, seeing about building up some new skills. I anticipate a lot of mid-project blocks with this one to, you know, I'd rather not knit a whole sweater and find out it didn't work, but I am okay if I knit like a yoke and I find out it didn't work. So we'll see how this goes, but yeah, really, really excited about this one. Like I said, just cast it on last night. One thing that I do find kind of funny is, so I think not my last episode, but the one before was my Make 9 for 2025. And the Cognac Sweater was on that, but nothing else that I have talked about was. So I made this Make 9 and then immediately was like, and went and made other things, which I think is totally okay. I think Make 9s are fun, but this is just my way of saying, like, if we get to the end of the year and I have not finished that Make 9, I'm not going to be surprised or upset or anything. Like, they're fun. They are there for inspiration, and they're there for, like, planning what you're, for me, in my head, they're there for planning what you're gonna do with the yarn that you have, and so, like, coming up with your options and ways to use them, but they're not like a contract you're making with yourself or anything. So, and the Bergman was supposed to be on my Make 9, but I, at the time, was so unsure if my yarn was gonna work or not. I hadn't done the swatching yet. And so I didn't want to put it on the Make 9 and, like, in my head lock myself into it and then feel more stressed about it. So that one was like, that's like my Make 10. Like, my Bergman was always like the honorary running up. So it feels like it counts in my head. But yeah, if you were like, just watch my planning video and you're coming watching this and you're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know. It is what it is. I knew this was going to happen as soon as I made plans. So that's all I have today. This is me signing off. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you got some knitting in, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.